please let me know. But whoever came up with the idea of like, you just need to stick your hand out and let the dog sniff you and then it'll know you. Like, why?
Welcome back to Ridgeside K9 Ec Radio with Mike and myself, Greg. We're going to be talking today about some things that we wish dog owners wouldn't do, or just some things that you can kind of take some tips from to lessen with your dog to kind of help them out and help yourself out. First one I think we're going to be talking about is not introducing anxiety or not introducing stimulation to your dog unnecessarily, which then creates anxiety.
Yeah.
First thing that comes to my mind is, a dog is on a leash and they see something or they hear something and they look towards a certain direction. And then the owner asks the dog a question, or the owner talks to the dog through whatever they're seeing. Like if it's another dog barking in the neighborhood, or if it's, the dog sees a family friend or somebody and the owner starts just like hyping the dog up essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
what's that? Who's that?
Yeah. Who is that? Oh, what do you see? What do you see? What's going on? And it's just creating stimulation in the dog's brain to where when they see that picture or they hear that picture again, that can be triggered after you've like continuously done it. Whereas just being calm, being neutral, and rewarding your dog for being calm and being neutral will be a so much better outcome in the sense of like, trying to have your dog not have that anxiety or trying to make them not be so crazy in those situations.
Yeah, I think like an easy analogy that I use when I'm coaching or doing turnovers with this and stuff is you look at like a toddler, right? Or a kid learning how to walk and they fall. They instantly look back at the parent for
Guidance.
Feedback, right? So if you act like it's no big deal, then the kid acts like it's no big deal.
Right.
Or if you start like clapping and laughing, then the kid will think it's funny. But if you, especially in the infancy where they're like literally just trying to learn how to stand on their own and they fall and you're like, oh, and you make a big deal about it, then that's when the waterworks turn on. Like whether you startle the kid or not, but you're teaching them like, this is the reaction that you're supposed to be having.
Right.
So if we do that with dogs and we see a dog nervous about something and then, we're either trying to, humanize this situation. It's okay. And then like forcing the dog to go up to it. Like the amount of evaluations we go to at the house for aggression cases, and like I'll get to the house and walk in and the dog's like super skeptical, hackles up, like just trying to figure me out. And the owners are trying to coach the dog to come up to me at that point. Like, he's okay. He's here to help you. Don't you want to pet him? Say hi, stick your hand out, that kind of stuff. And I'm like, just ignore the dog.
Yeah.
Right. And then 30 seconds later, the dog comes over, like sniffs me, figures me out, and then it'll give me the signs or the cues like it wants to play with me. And then I'll interact with the dog. But it's on the dog's decision at that point.
Well, like they're the ones who called saying, hey, I have this dog who's an asshole. Like if every interaction you've had with your dog and another person was your dog being an asshole to them, why do you think talking to them and telling them that it's okay is going to make a difference in this moment right here and now? And
I think that just comes from the overall populace not understanding that dogs don't understand English. Right. And it doesn't, it seems simple at face value, but we try to have these conversations with the dog and tell them like through complex language that this situation is okay. You don't need to be afraid of, a balloon or whatever. But the dog has zero idea what we're saying. So we just need to do it appropriately, act like it's not a big deal, and then keep your feet moving.
Right. Yeah. And like even, dogs that like, I don't know why tree stumps, like objects, like weird objects. Like I'll do it. I did it earlier. I had the tripod for the phone out, like in the game lands.
Yeah.
And we were walking away. Or like I had set it up and I went and got a dog and I came back and the dog saw the tripod.
Yeah.
And like kind of stanced, like had no clue what it was, but like that'll happen with random objects. It'll happen with like tree stumps, and the dog sees something.
Or like a piece of trash.
Yeah.
I watched a reel today while I was waiting for you to get here. It was like a Malinois.
I was 10 minutes early.
Yeah, if you're on time, you're late. Anyways, it was a Malinois and it was somebody's working dog, but it was like a black shopping bag was like blowing in the field. and it was just tripping the dog out.
Right.
So, you know, whoever that person was, like good handler or trainer or whatever, just allowed the dog to figure it out by itself, rather than trying to coach it or, you know, prep it and make a big deal out of it. Just allowed the dog to figure out that it was nothing. I mean, the Mal did what Mals do and bit the shit out of the bag and like thrashed it a little bit and it was over. But it was a good learning lesson for the dog without any human interjection into the equation.
Right. And like the problem is if we do interject something, it's often we're often interjecting something that because a lot of owners don't understand like the quadrants of operant conditioning. And like when I'm petting my dog, it's not the same as coddling a human or like, you know, hand on the shoulder saying like, you know, it's okay. Things will get better. As a human, you understand that you understand that like condoling, you know, sense. Whereas with a dog, petting is positive reinforcement. In 99.99% of situations, the dog is going to repeat a behavior if I've given them something that they want.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's a treat or it's a pet, if I say sit and I pet you, next time I say sit, you're going to want the pet and you're going to be happy to sit for me. You know, or if I want my dog to bark at something and like I tease them up or give them the command, whatever it is, and they bark, and when I want to reward them for it, I'm going to pet them down their back so that the next time I give them that bark command, they're going to do it. So my dog doing that behavior and getting reinforced for it intentionally happens. But then if my dog is barking at a plastic bag or my dog is barking at a tree stump, the English words don't matter. But if I'm saying, you know, it's okay, don't worry about it, but I'm petting them, trying to calm them, soothe them down, my intentions are not received anywhere near the same capacity. It's the complete opposite. Like you are making your dog, or you are reinforcing your dog to do that unwanted behavior.
One of the ways that I used to prove this point with clients is I used to have their dog like just out running around, and then I would like get excited and like with playful dogs, and I would just cuss the dog out the whole time, like petting it, loving it, and I'm like, "Oh, you're the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. You're stupid. Your hair is curly," and they're like looking at me, and I'm like, "Look how happy your dog is."
Yeah,
I just berated your dog for 5 minutes straight, but to him, we were playing, so we're cool.
Yeah,
and then I would do the vice versa of like, "You are a great looking dog," and the dog would be like, "Oh shit!" Right? I scolded the dog. So communication doesn't really matter to dogs. We talk too much and we do it at the inappropriate times. So how you fix that, and like you've kind of talked about and we've hit on, is if it's a weird situation, like a situation that's not replicable where we can train it, when it happens, just kind of ignore it and keep your feet moving.
Yeah.
Is the biggest key. My biggest pet peeve is how much we coddle dogs. And this kind of segues into it. But we baby the crap out of the dogs, and we create a lot of behavioral issues on the back end from that. Like separation anxiety, I think is, 100% human induced into dogs from coddling it. And then most of the aggression cases that we see, I would say like 99% of them, it's all created through human behavior because we coddle and baby these dogs and don't teach them how to manage stress. Right. So there's a avenue in life, whether it's with dog training or even with kids, like childhood development, like avoid stress, right? Just never be put in a stressful situation whatsoever. That's full of shit, because that's not the way the world works. I can't keep a dog in a bubble and hope nothing bad ever happens to it. But what I can do is systematically teach the dog how to deal with stress. And more importantly, you get to a threshold, this is what I need you to do in those types of situations. So if I get a dog that barks at somebody aggressively, I'm not going to reinforce it like we were talking about, petting, loving, hugging, squeezing. I'm either going to correct it or just move past it and not make a big deal about it, depending on a couple different factors. But we have to teach the dogs how to deal with stress and manage with stress, because we create all these issues that people send us dogs for training for.
Right.
Like little dog syndrome, like most of the meanest dogs that I've trained are small dogs, because they either bark aggressively at big dogs and then the owners pick them up, pet them, love them, hug them, squeeze them, or they bark at people. Oh, it's okay, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But if it was like 100-pound dog, it would be an extremely dangerous dog based on the behaviors that the owner have created with good intention. I'm not saying like they're bad, but they just don't know. They're doing, oh, my small little dog is acting like an asshole to this big dog, so let me protect it. But at the same time, you're teaching the dog there's zero consequences for, displaying these types of behaviors to a bigger dog.
Well, not even that there's zero consequences, but there's actually a reward.
Yeah, there's good consequences. Now, I'm not saying if your 5-pound Chihuahua is talking shit to like a 90-pound German Shepherd, you just let them figure it out.
Yeah.
Because physics is 100% in the German Shepherd's favor at that point. But you don't need to pick it up, soothe it, coddle it, baby it, and teach it. That's exactly what you want.
Right. No, I mean, totally agree. Like the lack of, and like that's kind of with like lack of structure is like not giving them, exposure to stressful things, not giving them good structure, definitely can lead to a lot of those problems, like you mentioned. For the other side of, what owners do that is non-beneficial to them or to their dog, is kind of in that aspect also is forcing them in situations that they don't want to be in. Like yes, stressful situations should happen, like stress inoculation, a little bit of it to work through it and be better for it, but completely uncomfortable, unsanctioned, unnecessary situations. I got a new dog, or not like a new puppy, but if I got foster adopted a 1-year-old dog and my neighbor has a dog and I bring it home, like my dog does not need to meet that neighbor dog, or my dog does not need to meet my, cousin or my uncle, but I'm forcing them into that situation. Yeah. One, especially if I just brought it home, like it needs to acclimate and do whatever. Like I need to be able to bond with it first.
Yeah.
But like forcing dogs like to go meet somebody or go see something, especially even worse so when the dog, backs up
is resistant to the idea.
It's just like people are extroverts or introverts. Dogs have the same, traits as well. Like dogs can be outgoing or dogs could be more reserved. And like, that's not saying that like, you shouldn't build confidence with more reserved dogs, but there's a proper way to do it. Whereas
I got to jump in before I forget this, but I want to know. So if anybody's listening and they know where this came from, please let me know. But whoever came up with the idea of like, you just need to stick your hand out and let the dog sniff you and then it'll know you. Like, why?
It knows you're a good person.
Yeah. Like the amount of, like, statistically speaking, the two places that get bit most on humans is the hands and the face, because that's what we put in a dog's face.
Yep.
So please, public service announcement, stop putting your hands out to let dogs sniff them.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get bit by the wrong dogs.
Like either, for one, the dog could have smelled you 5 feet away. It doesn't need to smell you 5 inches away. Or your pet dog's nose isn't as good as like Hollywood makes it out to be. Like I've had dogs in rooms with their owners after like 3 weeks and the dog never knew that the owners were even in the room just because like they were looking at me the whole time or whatever. Like,
or airflow, whatever. Anyways, back to your topic.
No, yeah.
Stop forcing dogs to be in uncomfortable situations if it's not necessary.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. If it's counterproductive.
Like the counterbalance to that, like obviously a dog is going to have to learn how to be in a car, right? Because I'm going to have to take it to the vet. I'm going to take it to the stores, do whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to spend time teaching the dog how to be comfortable in a car. But a dog does not need to meet every single person and be social and be touched by every single person, especially if it's a dog that doesn't want that, right? So I'm not going to counter condition human touching. Like the only person besides me that needs to touch my dog, family aside, would be like a vet, right? So I'm not going to spend time teaching the dog to be touched by the vet, but I'm going to set the dog up for success, whether I put it in a muzzle. I'm there with the dog to help coach and work with the vet through those types of situations. But I'm not going to say like, oh, you have to take affection from the neighbor, or, the neighbor's kids or whatever, or like I'm not going to say like, teach a dog like, hey, you have to be comfortable with getting your tail and your eyeballs yanked on by a child because it's unfair to the dog. So we have to look at it through the dog's eyes. What does the dog want? Like if it's cool just ignoring people, why force it to like people?
Right. And like with both sides of that, like I said, there's building confidence in dogs. Like a dog shouldn't be afraid of certain things, or it shouldn't, be scared to go into a building.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, like, I don't need to work them to a level to where, like you said, like they are friendly, or not just friendly, but are capable of being near every single person or every single dog. Like our dog Drake is super confident. He'll walk on all kinds of surfaces, and he'll walk in any kind of room, and he won't ever like be nervous about a situation. But he absolutely does not like, certain dogs in his face, like, or he'll like correct certain dogs. So like, that's not a confidence issue with him. It's a personality like thing. Like he just doesn't like certain dogs in his face. So like, I'm not going to force that, to happen. It's one of those things where people just kind of fantasize like dogs being man's best friend, that they should, be friends with everybody and everything. And like, I'm not going to be friends with everybody. I wouldn't expect my dog to be as well.
Yeah. Like, especially as we get closer to July timeframe, the amount of phone calls we get where people want training to get their dogs to like fireworks or or not be afraid of fireworks. And number one, like, it's not necessarily like the amount of time, effort, and energy and stress you're going to have to put that dog to counter condition them to giant explosions in the air is going to take years.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not worth the cost of that for the average pet owner to do that. So just like get the dog super tired, maybe give it some CBD, put on some white noise, put it in a safe place. Good night.
Yeah.
Right. Now, like I say that because I have conditioned dogs to accept gunfire, but those are like the 0.1% of dogs on the planet. They're hyper confident dogs, and it still takes time. Like getting a dog comfortable laying next to, belt fed machine gun takes time. So, but why am I going to put all that stress on a dog for one day a year for fireworks?
Right. And like, even in that aspect of like, even if I did have a more confident dog, like New Year's Eve, 4th of July, like my dog's in a kennel. I'm not going to have him out. Like I'm not leaving the front door.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like if, and like, hell, like I'm pretty sure like we potty broke dogs this year on New Year's Eve. Smartly, I didn't potty break anybody off leash.
Yeah.
Like even in the backyard, we leash walked every single dog in our own backyard, fenced in, because like it's just easier to be smart than it is to like New Year's Day and the 5th of July are the two biggest spikes in animal rescues and shelters because
lost dogs and stuff.
Yeah, like the two biggest days for found dogs or found on the side of the road, whatever you want to call it, is those days after the firework events. And I just don't understand like I get the fundamental, like, yeah, big noises are going on and dogs are going to run away. But like, I don't understand who's walking their dog at 10 p.m. or at midnight while these fireworks are going off.
Even my dog, who's like super neutral around gunfire, like I can shoot whatever weapons platform I want with him. I don't take him anywhere on July 4th.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he would be okay.
Yeah.
Because he's lived a life of like flashbangs going off next to him and doing all kinds of wild stuff. But why am I going to take him to a fireworks show?
Yeah.
So I can have my dog with me at a fireworks show? Like,
yeah,
whatever. Just leave him at home.
Yeah. Another one that kind of drives me crazy is, and it drives me crazy.
Britney Spears song just popped in my head. This is where we need a producer, so I can be like, "Hey, play Britney."
Yeah, engineer. For all of this, it's because I want dogs to have better lives at home, and I want owners to have an easier life at home.
Yeah.
So like that's why it drives me crazy, is because like it's all very simple fixes, all very simple life changing things. But one is the concept of like, and I guess it's always, especially for this one, it comes down to spreading misinformation. Like with this one being, your dog is going to grow out of it. Your dog is going to like, go through a stage or whatever it is. Like to me, that is one of the biggest like misconceptions spread about dogs is that like they're gonna, stop growling or stop puppy biting or stop, whatever it is without any actual structure teaching whatever it is. Like a human child isn't going to learn how to use a toilet without potty training. A dog isn't either. Like a dog isn't just going to grow out of, peeing on the carpet, or a dog isn't just going to grow out of not chewing the windowsills. Like that is a lack of structure caused problem, and it's a behavior that they are getting away with and that they're going to continue to do until there's interjection.
Yeah, and a couple key points on that. Like anything that the dog does, like repetitively, they're obviously getting some sort of enjoyment out of it. Right. If your dog constantly chews the blinds or barks at the window and destroys some shit, or
it's self-reinforcing.
Yeah, it's self-reinforcing. So if it wasn't fun for them or they didn't get anything out of it, they're not going to do it, because every dog is selfish as crap, right? Mm-hmm. They're only doing the stuff that they want to be doing. So we have to teach them there is no enjoyment in that, and give them something more productive to do on the back end of that. But they're not going to grow out of it because they like it.
Right. Like I'm 32 or 33 years old. I don't remember.
Math.
And like, I haven't grown out of like, take this for what it is. I haven't grown out of speeding. Like we all went through driver's ed at 16, 17 years old. We all can read the speed limit signs. If you've gone 10 or 15 over and you've gotten a ticket, you're probably going to put cruise control on. If you haven't, you're probably going to go with the flow of traffic, just because the flow of traffic's 5 over, the flow of traffic's 10 over, and you're just going with them, and you're not getting pulled over for it. So like, it's a habit that every single day you go to work and you go the same speed throughout all the same, zones, and like you're not following what you're supposed to do just because you're able to get away with that habit kind of thing, and so it's not like we don't say, oh, teenagers, yep, they'll
grow out of it.
Yeah, like they'll speed till they grow out of it. No, like it's a habit that is allowed to happen. So it's going to continue to happen until it's a aversive situation happens, a $500 speeding ticket, and a court date, and like for the next 6 months, I have cruise control on, and I am like never going.
The shitty part is like with this analogy, like I'm an adrenaline junkie by nature.
Mm-hmm.
I've had I still have a really fast car.
Mm-hmm.
What keeps me from not speeding is not the tickets. It's the fact that if I know, like, if I just go all in, like how I'm going to speed, that ain't a ticket. That's your car is impounded. You're wearing a pair of bracelets, like, and then the business shuts down.
Right.
So like if I go to Germany and I go on the Autobahn, like that would be absolutely dope. But to me, I would like cry.
Right.
Like I got to spend a night in jail. Like, hey, Marcy, I need you to pick me up tomorrow. Why? I was doing 173 in a 55.
The Mercedes is impounded.
Yeah. We ain't getting that back for a while. It's gonna be a tow bill.
But like, and that's the thing is like, knowing what you can or can't get away with, right? Like so, and it's the same thing for dogs. Like it's not about them not doing something because like they know it's right or wrong, but it's because like they're gonna do something they know they can get away with, because it hasn't been held accountable or whatever it is. And so like
hypothetically, I know there's spots on these long straight roads where I don't see police officers frequently.
Yep.
So I may flirt with changing the modes on the car and maybe dropping it a gear and disappear, but you roll the dice.
Absolutely.
But it's a risk assessment.
And like that, like that's the thing is like, it is a roll of the dice. Like it is, dogs do that same risk assessment. Like they know what they can and can't do, you know? So like saying back into it, like saying like they're just going to grow out of it. Like that's not going to be a thing, just like we've talked about, like, adults do, things that aren't right or things that aren't legal or things that aren't whatever. Like we don't just grow out of those stages just because like, time, like it's a habit.
My parents told me I would grow out of liking tattoos too.
Yeah.
And now that I'm, 3/4 covered, I don't know. Maybe when I'm full, then I'll grow out of it. I don't know if I'm crazy enough to get laser removal and redo it.
Oh my God, that's hardcore.
But yeah, so like a perfect case that makes me think about this is I did a 10-week-old Malinois one time.
Mm-hmm.
They came to me for puppy training, and they said, It's showing signs of aggression. We're not really concerned it's going to go out of it, right? And there's like resource guarding or whatever. And I'm like, probably no big deal. Like it's probably not what you think it is. It's probably just normal puppy, like unstructured, nipping, playful stuff that get misdiagnosed, right? Because we do get a lot of calls where they're like, my puppy's very aggressive because it's biting, but it's actually just playing, right? The puppy's just being social. It doesn't understand the dynamics of like playing with a dog and playing with a human can be different.
They use their mouth, whereas we use our hands.
Correct. But this little puppy in particular, like small dog, 10 weeks old, it was 100% nasty. Like when she came, I was messing with a food bowl, and she definitely resource guarded. Like as my hand was getting closer, lips started curling, ears pinned back, and I'm like, no way. And like, bro, she lit me up. Like, and then not only lit me up to push me away from the bowl, like kept coming after me. Like it was funny to me because like small dog, but like if that was an 80-pound dog, 70-pound dog, like she would have got me and broke my hands, broke my leg because she like nailed me in the calf too, like chasing me around, and I'm laughing because I'm getting chased by like a 10-week-old puppy.
Yeah.
But if that was a full-size dog, like it's super dangerous, like no doubt. So we were able to work through it, teach a dog how to behave in those types of situations. But they were told, oh, it's just a mal. Yeah. It'll grow out of it. No, I'm sure some people saw some shit in Ted Bundy when he was young, and they're like, I'll grow out of it, like cutting rabbits' heads off or whatever. Turns out he didn't.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah. Turns out it just turned into a serial killer.
Yeah.
But that's some stuff that can be fixed. I don't know if you can fix a serial killer, if you can read that. That's total recall shit. But with puppies, you can fix it and teach them how to behave, how to interact, and work through some of the problems.
Right. And, with the mal, people giving them that excuse, of, oh, it's just a mal. Like, oh, yep, it's a Maligator. Like, we have a Boykin Spaniels. They have kind of a nickname as a Destroykin. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of dog breeds.
Whoever came up with that is genius.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Like, I'm sure there's a lot of dog breeds that have like their own kind of like pet name for being like, bad or misbehaved. But like that's a problem with using that term very loosely, as it gives an excuse, like Facebook group, my 8-month-old Boykin tore up its dog bed. Like, is this common or is this normal? And people will say, yep, totally normal. It's just a Destroykin being a little brown dog.
Yeah.
And like, no, it's not. Like, for one, it's not breed specific. Like your Boykin is not breed specifically a destroyer of dog beds. Like, any dog can do that, when they're bored and they're given the ample amount of opportunity to do it. But it's also not an excuse.
Get your dog a Caranda place cot. They're indestructible.
Like, it's
selfless plug for an affiliation I don't have.
Yeah, we need them over here.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse for them to do that behavior. Like, it's not something that you just have to live with because you have that breed. Like, those are all shapeable, correctable, behaviors that can change, or can at least be maintained, managed in some capacity. Like,
yeah.
If your dog's too young to train it in a certain thing, like, there's always a kennel. Like, either it's coming from potty training or it's coming from, loud noises like we're talking about with fireworks. Like, we have safe places to put dogs in to prevent them from injury or prevent them from damaging something, outside of like working with them and training them to do so. So it's just one of those things where, like, owners need to stop giving excuses for their dogs, and they need to stop like putting off behaviors that they'll just grow out of. Like, another
one, perfect example is like Labradors, right? I think an actual Labrador. We train a lot of labs that are not labs.
Rescue labs.
Yeah, rescue labs. That's like 80-90% pit bull with floppy ears, so they call it a Labrador to help get it rescued. I'm not against that. It's just not a Labrador. But if you buy a Labrador, the amount of calls with like real purebred Labradors that we get, well, it's just a lab, so it counter surfs all the time.
Yeah.
I understand, right? Labs are typically very food motivated. They're confident dogs, so they're going to get up on the counter. But that doesn't make it acceptable. Right? So you can teach your lab not to counter surf. You can teach your lab not to get into the trash can. There is hope. You can have a good Labrador that, yes, they're food motivated, but that doesn't give them a free pass to like break into the bread cabinet or whatever. I don't even know if people still have those, but like get up on the counter and eat your shit.
Yeah.
Because of his the lab. I did an evaluation at a client's house one time. They had a Labrador, and the amount of fail-safe things that they had on their refrigerator to prevent their dog from getting into the fridge was astronomical. Like it was one of those like French doors on top, pull-out freezer, right? They had all three of those chained together with a bike lock, and then they had tire chocks shoving the bottom free like underneath.
Oh, so it can't like skid on the ground, pull out. Yeah.
And I was like, hey, like that would annoy me if I have to go like use a Fibonacci sequence to get into my fridge when I want like a snack. I was like, just teach the dog, don't touch the fridge, and life is good.
Yeah, and that's a extreme case of like living around your dog. Like like you brought your dog into your home, like you should not live around it. Like you were there first.
Yeah.
You know, you pay the rent, you pay everything in that home, you pay for its food, you pay for the vet bills. You shouldn't live around your dog, especially to that capacity.
Yeah.
There's definitely options out there outside of just dealing with those mundane, everyday hassles. That's crazy. Chained up refrigerator.
It was pretty wild. I think the key, just to recap everything, get your dog the thing that it needs, right? Exercise, train it, teach it what you want it to do in a certain situation, and life can be a lot better.
Absolutely.
And if you're struggling with that, we can help.
Absolutely.
Any dog trainer can help. Some dog trainers can help.
Yeah, make sure you're reputable, source cited, vetted dog trainer. If you haven't listened to the last podcast, you want to make sure that you know what you're getting.
I don't even know if these drop in order, but either way, where can people find you? We'll wrap this one up.
RSK9NC.Greg. I love responding. I get a lot of clients or non-clients or other dog trainers will message me occasionally. So I always like hearing from people.
You get some fanboys on there.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say some weird shit and mildly stalk Greg.
Ashley will like ask me like what I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, I'm just talking to a dog trainer in Texas.
Yeah.
It's like, who? I'm like, I don't even know their company. But like they've asked me like X, Y, or Z. I was like, oh,
Greg's gonna screw around and end up getting traffic somehow.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. You can find us at Ridgeside K9 Eastern Carolina on all the meta platforms. And then me personally, Mike_Sportcheck. Like, share, subscribe to the show, share it, let your people know. We'll see you on